asked for it. Here it is. It's a podcast from Apathetic Enthusiasm.
Coming to you live again from the beginning of our Rick and Morty Season 7 coverage. It's a little slow so far, the wait is killer, but they already wrote the episodes. I'm sure it's fine, and this is definitely fine. It's Interdimensional RSS, the unofficial Rick and Morty podcast. Woo! First time.
First time, best time, every time.
Yep.
It's Interdimensional RSS. Hello, everybody. I'm Travis.
Hey, everybody. I am Brandon, and welcome to a special episode. Every episode is special, but this is a special episode.
So special.
Because Travis and I are both sick. I had a cold. I'm recovering. He is just getting sick, so this is going to sound great.
We're going to sound great. This is how I'm going to sound for the entire show until
clear.
I sound like nothing.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. But hey, let me go ahead and since you're getting sick, Travis, let's save your voice. Let me do the social media stuff, okay?
Oh, you're so kind, Brandon. So thoughtful.
Let's get it started. You can go over to Twitter while it is still there, while we can still advertise on other platforms at Rick and Morty Pod. Facebook, facebook.com/Rick and Morty Podcast. Instagram, Rick and Morty Podcast. Email, rickandmortypodcast@gmail.com. You can send us an email there. I know lots of other people do. Usually it's spam, but they send it, and we can't thank you enough for that. Lots of Huggies diapers. I don't know why I keep getting that. Anyways, over on the web, you can go to our subreddit, Rick and Morty Podcast at reddit.reddit.com, Reddit, rickandmorty.reddit.com, where yours truly is a moderator, and sometimes I ban people for doing stupid posts. Very rarely. And I always feel bad doing it, but I'm like, okay, this is a little too blatant. Okay, our website, https://www.rickandmortypod.com or rickandmortypodcast.com. You can get there that way as well. So we are streaming live currently, twitch.tv/apathetic enthusiasm, or you can check out the show over on YouTube after the fact, youtube.com/apathetic enthusiasm. If you want to support us, you can do so in the following manner. Go to TeePublic, apatheticenthusiasm.com/shop. Oh, no. We need to take that TeePublic thing out of there.
Yeah, I haven't read that line in like 6 months.
I read the Patreon line, but I said the TeePublic line. Anyways, patreon.com/apathetic enthusiasm to support us in that way. There you go. Those are all the links. That is the housekeeping out of the way just for you, Travis.
TeePublic probably still has t-shirts worth buying, but you just buy a shirt. It won't support us. Just go get one. Yeah. oh no, this is a bad sign.
Oh no.
Let's see. Quick the Ewok asking when Mark Maron joined us on the podcast. That's right. If you want to see Brandon's best impression of Mark Maron, make sure you're checking out the live stream or YouTube so you can get that video content. Right? It's good stuff.
You know,
you're so dapper.
I produced a concept episode of a different podcast, and I sent it to my friend Roxanne, and she was like,
Roxanne.
she said, you sound much different since you retired. And I mean, I don't feel different, but I do have facial hair, and my hair's long. It's very weird. Anyways,
it is weird.
And I'm wearing an orange shirt, a bright orange shirt.
Yeah, you look like an inmate. No, you don't.
Yeah, part of the in crowd.
You're the. Let's do this. Let's do this podcast. We're so glad you're here. Season 6 is over, but you're still with us. So thank you for downloading this episode. Thank you for joining us on the live stream. Let's start off, as we always do, with a little segment called Semi-Pertinent News.
Didn't have time to produce a song, no. But I got claps all night long, oh yeah. It's Semi-Pertinent News.
The season's over. You're back to acapella.
Nobody cares about the recap episode except our greatest fans who are in the Twitch chat with us. Yes. Semi-Pertinent News. We didn't do a whole lot of research into this because Season 7 is so far away. So let's just talk about what's on everybody's mind right now. Over on the subreddit, they've been talking about this. it's not about Rick and Morty. It's like it's the official semi-pertinent news subreddit. They're talking about High on Life, Travis.
That's right.
Now I played maybe an hour or two of it, and then got sucked back into Madden because Matt wants to beat me at Ultimate Team. Um, but
But I have no friends, so I played High on Life by myself.
and Wingspan. Yeah,
This
so
is
so
true.
tell me about High on Life, because I played the first mission of it. You played multiple missions of it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I've beaten 2 of the bounties now. Basic story behind the game is you are like a teenager. Um, Earth is attacked by aliens, and you happen to get one of their guns. The guns talk to you, and the gun is it's Justin Roiland's voice, right? So if you've ever played like Accounting, the VR game, or Trover Saves the Universe, you're kind of already familiar with the vibe, right? The game is a little meta. It doesn't take itself too seriously. A lot of jokes, a lot of crazy humor. But yeah, so you end up leaving Earth. You actually teleport your house off of Earth, and then you go out on missions trying to take out the aliens that are trying to overthrow the planet Earth. And there's some great humor in the game. It's a first person shooter, but there's some puzzle mechanics and different platformer type things in it as well. So I'm having fun with it.
Mm,
It's is it the best shooter I've ever played? Far from it. But yeah, it's fun. It's entertaining. It is definitely an entertaining game. There's weird Easter eggs and stuff in there. There's, I think, a full movie in the game.
yeah,
Uh,
damn it,
and
T
for
Rex.
so here's the thing with, what is this movie called?
Tammy and the T Rex.
Tammy and the T-Rex. Every time I go back to the house, the movie like starts over. And I'm
Oh,
like, can I get something else? Like, because I don't want to sit there and watch the movie in game. But I just get like the opening sequence of this like cheesy like '90s movie over and over again. So that's fun.
yeah.
Um,
You could just subscribe to Shutter and watch Joe Bob Briggs talk about Tammy and the T Rex over on his last drive-in. Not a
I could,
sponsor, Shutter.
I could. So yeah, I'm playing it. I'm not playing it super consistently, but
Yeah.
downtime over the holidays, maybe I'll play a little bit more.
It,
But as we talk about the the Joe Bob and Shudder and
mm,
horror films,
sure.
there's another horror film that we mentioned last week. That of course being the Adult Swim Yule Log, and
Of
I have to
course.
ask Brandon, did you watch it?
Did I? Did I ever? We talked about it last week a little bit for our season 6 finale, and I wanted. I'd heard about it. I didn't look it up at all. I knew that it was a horror film, and then we talked about it. And so all week long, I've been like, yeah, I kind of want to watch that, right? And so last night, instead of watching Rick and Morty, because there was no Rick and Morty on, my wife Chelsea asked me, "Hey, is there anything you want to watch tonight for dinner?" And I said, "Yule Log." She said, "What?" And I said, "I want to watch the Yule Log." She said, "Okay." I'm like, "It's a horror thing. It's an Adult Swim horror film." And she said, "All right." And so I watched it with her and my son, my 10-year-old son. And I will say, I was like, "Well, it's on Adult Swim, so there's not going to be any massive nudity. There's going to be some questionable things, I'm sure, but I'm like, well, we don't filter them too much." So it starts off 4 minutes or so of just kind of like showing a Yule log. It's got the Christmas music. The story starts to expand, introducing some characters, introducing some other characters. And what I like about the movie is that it it starts to expand beyond like the very limited scope of the Yule log, like switches perspectives at some point in time. Then we start to see different, deaths, some like kind of crazy David Lynchian type of shit. Like, and I use that in an actual like Lynchian sense. There's like a character that's like like a mini person. He's like, "Hey, look at me! Hey, look at me! Come here! Come here!" almost like Mulholland Drive. But anyway, hour and a half, watched it. I liked it. My son wasn't bored. My wife wasn't bored. There was like a part maybe like in the first 20 minutes where there's a lot of talking, much like I'm doing now. Come on.
You're carrying the episode, Brandon, and I appreciate it.
There are some camera angles that are really kind of creepy and cool, and then it goes off the rails towards the end. But I liked it. I recommend it.
There you go.
Again, Casper Kelly, Too Many Cooks.
Still available on HBO Max if you want to check it out. So.
That's right. Well, so that is what we have. Oh, on one last note on High on Life. I talked about my 10-year-old and filtering. What I will say is I started playing it, and he was watching me play it. And then I got knifey with Michael Cusack and doing the voice. And I tell you what, I was like, oh my God, he's saying some shit. So my son came up to me yesterday after Yule log. Well, no, beforehand. And he's like, hey, is it okay if I play that High on Life game? I'm like, no. Like, kind of got to draw the line.
Yep. Not. We're gonna lose our E for everything rating, as they say. Yeah. It's definitely not a family title, but yeah, it's been fun so far, playing by myself with headphones on.
Been great and fun so far.
Yep.
So before we move on to the thing that we do after the semi-perts, there's one last segment, and it's the Dan Harmon Social Media Minute.
Dan Harmon. Yeah. Oh wait, hold on. Claps. Dan Harmon Social Media Minute. Dan's back, everybody. I know we had a scare there for a while, but Dan's back. I don't know if he went to the World Cup or just found a bar that he really likes for the World Cup. But there's a lot of Instagram posts about the World Cup, and of course, this weekend we had the World Cup final. Argentina going up against France, and this post from yesterday from Dan Harmon just says, I have never cared about this sport, and I'm about to have a GD heart attack, is what he says. A heart attack because Argentina was tied with France, and they were going to penalty kicks. Brandon, did you watch eagerly the final match of the World Cup?
You would think I watched the final match of the World Cup, but no, I followed along on Twitter, and I followed along with all my friends who were watching, and just hearing the craziness that led to that final shootout, leading to Messi's first World Cup before he retires. And yeah, like that's cool, good for him. He's leaving. But yeah,
I heard today that he said he might not retire now. So
it's okay.
Lame.
He's the Brady of. No, I don't want to insult him like that.
No.
No, but I will say there's a lot of folks who don't like soccer. They're like, soccer's boring. That and Dan Harmon kind of is going along with them, where he's like, but this game was something else. So
I've heard that if you only saw one soccer match in your entire life, like if that was the only one you saw, it was like the best. And I saw 0 minutes of it. So I don't know, maybe I feel like rewatching a soccer game is not something that's really in my wheelhouse. So
no.
I'm just gonna miss out on this piece of history. But thank you, Dan, for sharing your stress, your excitement with the folks on Instagram. If you want to follow Dan, he's at Dan Harmon on Instagram. And that's it, the Dan Harmon Social Media Minute.
I do want to do, because you put this one out there first, I do want to give an
honorable mention.
Yeah, a consolation media minute where he posted about over on, I forget what channel it was, but it was like Sister Swap.
It's like Netflix or something.
It's
a bizarre.
Like 2 different movies called Sister Swap have nothing to do with each other, but they basically have the exact same plot. there's no way to synchronize them. Like one movie has one sister's meet cute do the in the restaurant, a meet cute that has no importance, and that other movie has the same kind of thing. Yeah. Anyways, he's like, it's so weird. And then he put like a side by side of the two films. They're basically the same movie, but not the same movie at all. It's not like even like a sequel. Like,
Yeah, it's not the two movies told from different perspectives. Like, he is legitimately flabbergasted by why these two movies like exist separately with the same actors. But yeah, sister swap movies. They're really blowing Dan's mind. That's the other thing. Some great captions on his Instagram about the sister swap movies. 2 posts, in fact, about them. What are they on? Because I don't think it's Netflix.
no, it was like, was it like HBO Max, or was it like Peacock, or maybe it's like Peacock, because I think that there's like a bunch of like random shitty movies on Peacock. I watch it for Columbo. That's why I have Peacock, and I'm in the later seasons, and Columbo keeps finding ways to catch these killers. I'm impressed. He hasn't lost a case yet.
Just one more thing.
Anyway,
Hallmark
anyway.
Channel. Hallmark.
Hallmark, the
The Hallmark
Peacock
movies.
of the card industry.
Yeah, I had to go to the Wikipedia page for Sister Swap, the film series, to find that. But there you go. Dan Harmon's social media 2 minutes this time. Go follow him. It's a great time. All right, that's it for semi-pertinent news. It is now time for the reason that you downloaded this podcast.
Ooh.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the main thing.
Ooh, main thing. Ooh, it's the main thing. Ooh, baby. I forget which song that is. It's probably something like the main
It's
thing.
in the way that you main thing.
Yeah. All right. It is the main
Oh,
thing.
don't you know? Oh, sorry.
Our main thing for this week is a recap of season 6. So what we just wanted to do, we want to make this real quick, right? Just like season 6 was. It felt like it flew by. It was here and then it was gone. And now we have nothing but to talk about this. So we want to talk about
All we have is time with our families over Christmas. Oh man.
Oh, come on. So we want to talk about some themes we saw. We want to talk about some of the episodes, some of our favorite bits from throughout the season. Yeah, we'll just take it away from there. Some best credit tag. Got a whole slew of things. I haven't even put together my top 3. Maybe I'll figure out what the top 3 are.
Jeez, do it on the fly
as we
while
go
we're
through it.
talking.
as we're talking. So Travis.
the number one theme, the theme that we hinted at, we spoke to blatantly throughout the entire season, and this felt present pretty early on. We've called it the season of Jerry, right? The season that really highlighted different aspects of Jerry's character, and it started pretty early, right? It started with the premiere episode, Solarix, where we had a version of Jerry, the OG, the OJ, if you will, the Cronenberg Jerry, who has at this point lost his entire family. He has moved on. He's grown. He is resourceful. He's independent. He can even get a cheap shot and slice a Rick's throat in a pinch. And really dies tragically early on in the season. And I don't know, people were really excited about this version of Jerry and the potential of who Jerry could be and when forged in the right, crucible of pain, I guess.
Yeah. Well, even Rick Prime, which we were told not to reveal when the premiere happened,
Correct.
but has since been spoken about even in the finale. when he when he first sees a Jerry, he's like, you know, what is it? He's like, you arced out. Um, Hitting the pinnacle of what Jerry could be once all of his attachments are gone, his reasons to be insecure about things are gone. That is what he can be. Like he has to become self sufficient. He has to take care of himself, and because without those attachments, he is free to focus inwardly at himself. Um, and so you know we kind of see that through through a couple episodes, right? So he talking about like Night Family, him and Night Jerry, even him finding out about himself. Like we get that little bit of backstory with him in Bethic Twinstinct, right? With him in high school, like she's gonna rip your heart out, and he turns into a pill bug, right? But he
Yeah.
comes out of that a more successful Jerry. The fact that his book in Jurixic Mort was chosen by this higher level intelligence of being like, this is exactly what you need. Congratulations, somebody wrote this for you. We're not going to say who it is, but it's important, right? He finds these bits of growth. So in many ways, you know, we have felt that it is the season of Jerry. There has been lots of making it to where he's not as pathetic. He's still pathetic, but he is not as pathetic because there's some like redeeming moments there.
And I think there's even like moments where back to the season premiere where they're going and collecting this core family again, and they talk about, you know, season 2 Jerry vibes, right? And where Jerry and Beth are at each other all the time, and their relationship is on the rocks, and there's been a lot of progress and a lot of growth, and splitting the Beths probably helps as well. But I think, yeah, I think this version of Jerry has grown a lot. Does he still have his moments of being pathetic? Does he opt to do the horse jigsaw puzzle on Thanksgiving? Sure he does. Sure he does. But he's a simple man with a weird file structure on his computer, right? But he's
Final, 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 final.
I don't know. I think this season has gone a little ways to cement even more for me that, yeah, while Jerry may be the most pathetic of the Smith family, he's an endearing character that I am proud to say I'm a Jerry fan.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, like Night Family.
Fortune cookie episodes not withstanding. So.
No, and you know, like the fortune cookie episode is a good episode to point out that it's not always about Rick.
Yeah.
Rick is there and he's doing some stuff, but that the episode ends up has nothing to do with him. And so yeah, like I've been hesitant. I want to segue into the next kind of themes here, and might as well do it. I've been kind of pushing against it, but there's some themes about like becoming better versions of ourselves. The season of therapy. So, you know, we're talking about like Rick letting go of stuff. We're talking about Jerry like focusing on like trauma, like the trauma of him in high school, you know, like these types of things moving forward. So
yeah, well, and with Rick being forced back to his original timeline, to a past where he is literally torturing himself with the voice of his dead wife. There's something interesting going back and looking at the first episode after seeing the entire season, and kind of seeing that first step that Rick is taking, where he's letting go of that past, whether it's him flipping the switch to, you know, allow sweet death for all of those people captured in a infinite loop, or just moving on from that reality and accepting the people who his new family, right? He's letting go of some of that pain. He doesn't let go of it completely, as we see in the finale, but yeah, I felt like going back and looking at that, it was his first step into this season of growth and development.
yeah, and you know, like there's so much stuff in there, even if it's not specifically Dr. Wong or you know, the stuff with Pissmaster, right?
Yeah.
Or him working with Morty and like looking like it's a nicer Rick, but it's really just a robot programmed to do 22% more good to care about the family, and the family all falls in love with him, right? If 22%, by the way, if 22% is enough to make your entire family fall in love with you, like how much work is that actually to put in to your existence
Yeah.
and your life?
Yeah.
Anyway, um, we have this in a separate category, but I feel like it's kind of a sub bullet for this season of therapy, and it's just like this concept of loving yourself and kind of mixing that with narcissism. So I mentioned with the dinosaur or Deathmythation that it wasn't all about Rick, but Rick thinks it's all him the entire time.
Yeah.
Going into the Pissmaster episode, he thinks all of these people like are just out to get him, but they're all third rate, fourth rate beings. Like the only reason anybody cares about him is because he gives them attention, right? Like, nobody actually cares about him. And you know, like Bethic Twinstinct, like that part is like about like loving yourself, and there's this difference between what is like loving yourself and caring about yourself, but then like caring about yourself so much that you forget all your other attachments and don't and damage them in certain ways. And
Yeah.
so I think we see that throughout the season. I
I
was all sorry.
I can't disagree. No, and
Disagree with me, son of a.
no, and I'm trying. I was thinking about. I didn't get an opportunity to rewatch a Rick and King Mortar's Mort because it was taken off of iTunes for some reason. But I'm trying to think about there's because that's where the shift happens, right? The 22% shift, and the cold open for that episode, while it kind of goes by quickly and can be an afterthought, I think that understanding for Rick to realize, oh, there's something going on between me and Morty's relationship, and Morty doesn't respect me the way that he used to, or he doesn't look up to me, or he doesn't even just listen to me the way that he did in the past. I need to fix that. Now, does he fix it the right way by being a better person and growing and developing? No, he makes a robot to have him do it instead, and then he kind of slides back into his pursuit for Rick Prime. But as we see at the end of that episode, or the end of the finale, that's an extension of Rick still, right? That's still Rick trying to be better, just not necessarily nailing the landing. So I don't know. It is interesting to see that we saw it a little bit in last season's finale where they were forced to push the lever together, right, as partners.
Mm-hmm.
And now him bringing Morty into the hunt, into the pursuit of Rick Prime, is again making it not all about himself, but allowing him to share that space with Morty. And I think that is development and that is growth over the season. If you had to tie it all sort of with one thread, you go from a season premiere where he's checking Morty's DNA to see if he feels balmy, and then, in the end, pulling back the curtain and sharing his actual pursuit with Morty and bringing him on board for the ride. So I don't know. I think that kind of helps gain that thread throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. Honey is watching in the Twitch chat mentioning baby steps, right? And yeah, I agree. I agree with the concept that it, like, and we talked about it. We talked about it on this show. I think for the Dr. Wong episode, maybe, or the Pissmaster Dr. Wong episode, like baby steps of like little bits, and in any kind of like self improvement, it goes back. Like you can go backwards, right? Like these are habits we build into ourselves as humans, and sometimes those habits are hard to break, and the only way to break a habit is to create a new habit. And so taking step back or falling backwards is natural. Um, uh, so I think that we've seen that he's taking these baby steps. I think like in the Jurassic Mort, I think I'm referencing that because it is the
This is
latest
the last one you got to in your rewatch.
yeah. And he goes to the dinosaurs and he said, "You don't get to take yourself out of things just because you're smarter than everybody else, right?"
Yeah.
And at the same time, in the finale, we find out he built this robot so he can take care of the family, so he can focus on himself. So he's taking himself out of things in a way, but it's not selfish. It it felt a little selfish to me on the first watch, maybe a rewatch. But thinking about it now that I'm not sick anymore, like I was last week, like okay, I can think about it more objectively.
Yeah.
Talking about narcissism, talking about self-help, like being able to focus on yourself is not a bad thing if you're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, the other thing that stood out in terms of growth and development for the not just for the characters but for the show, started again back in that first episode where, if you think back to like, what was it, Cronenberg, where they buried the bodies in the backyard, like that was the first season, right?
Mm-hmm.
This season 6 takes what was Rick and Morty's secret, right? Their knowledge that they are the only two from their original reality, or from a different reality. And this season creates a reset where it doesn't matter which reality you started from. This is the core family, right? You have all 6 of them in the backyard, trying to pronounce Parmesan and Parmesan. But I think it's really interesting that they were deliberate about that reset, and then from that we get 5-6 episodes where even portal travel is broken. And I don't know, I think we may look back at season 6 as a little bit of a pivot point, a reset for the family and for the types of adventures maybe that they go on, because it even says it in your favorite episode, Jurassic Mort, where they sort of evolved out of portal travel, right? The dinosaurs, they did that thing for a while, but then they kind of got to a one universe, one reality type of structure. And will portal travel be gone forever in the show? No, and it's still a useful tool, a useful mechanic for the writers, but it is interesting that they've grounded the show a little bit in terms of who the family is and the types of adventures that they've been dealing with.
And I mean, portal travel is there. Well, that wasn't the point I wanted to make. The point I actually wanted to make was we are 6 seasons now in. We're going into the 7th season. If the show was going to hit an ending point, which look, I'm a fan. I'm a huge fan of the show. Obviously, we podcast about it every episode there is, and even when there's not an episode. But I also want good storytelling, and I want there to be this arc, right? A natural ending point for the series. I don't want it to go on forever, like Dexter or like Lost. No, just kidding. I love Lost. I Lost ended when it needed to. But like other examples of shows that have gone on way too long, Supernatural, for example. I don't want the Rick and Morty to get to that point in time.
Yeah.
The beauty of the Simpsons is it doesn't have any it doesn't matter like what the episode next week is about, because there's nothing serialized tying it to anything before. So there needs to be an end point. And so 6 seasons in, going into 7th season, they're on contract for 3 more seasons after this, for however many more episodes 30 more episodes.
Yeah.
So, it is almost a little bit of a like starting to go down, like a natural, like, okay, now we're gonna start rolling into what the finale of the series should be at the end of season 10, perhaps.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
I don't
Whether
know.
that's true or not, I think Royland was like, "No, let's go on forever if we can," which sounds great. But I want quality to stay there too.
Zachman wants 1,000 episodes. 100 years, Rick and Morty. Those were some major themes from the show. We can kind of bounce episode to episode and see if anything like jumps out at us. Obviously, we talked about the reality restart and really Rick Prime becoming the big bad in the season premiere. That's like Evil Morty was the guy. The writers were very deliberate that Evil Morty is not the guy anymore. We're moving on. It's all about Rick Prime. And then we hop right into a completely unrelated episode with Rick, well lived, and some walkie talkie Die Hard. So, like, I don't know. I thought that was it was a weird shift, but it was nice for me to see because it reassured to me that we're gonna get some one-off episodes and some things even moving forward, that it's not all going to be canon, it's not all going to be serialized. We're going to still get, oh, let's do a Die Hard one, or let's do,
Let's do
I
a
don't
Die
know.
Hard.
Just do a Die Hard. And it's good to see Roy coming back as well. We didn't really talk about this with Bethic Twinstinct, but that idea of using video games as an escape,
Oh yeah.
right? I think if we talk about growth and being mentally mature and dealing with your problems, that was definitely something that they used. Where I don't know that I loved the video games in terms of like an interdimensional Cable-esque type of show. Like they had some cool ideas. The text-based one was really fun, but that being a mechanism for them to escape what was going on for real within the family was interesting to see.
Yeah, for sure. That idea of before you can move from your trauma, you have to address your trauma. Like knowing like what the root of whatever it is that's affecting you. And I mean, avoidance is a technique. Is it the healthiest? Who knows? I'm not a psychiatrist.
You're no Dr. Wong.
Psychiatrists are the ones who prescribe. Okay. Yeah. So then we move on to Night Family from thereafter. The Rob Schraub written episode. The pure
It stands
horror.
up. I really like it. Going back to it, it's a good episode.
It is a solid episode, and just Summer walking in that that suit, just it cracks me. Just that slow slurp of the Duquil.
The Duquil. That's right.
Kills me still. But just the lesson there is just just rinse your dishes.
Rinse your dishes.
Take 2 seconds.
Yeah, and life's not as easy as you think it would be, right? Sometimes you got to pay the bills.
I guess seize the day is harder than I thought, or whatever. And then leading into this, so the first half, and then leads into final dispensation to end the first half, which we learn, hey, fortune cookies are alien poop, and don't bang your mom.
Yeah, which I think that's what I think if you watch the inside of the episode, that's what they're trying to get at, pretty much in that one. You also get some Sailor Moon quick changes and all sorts of other weird things going on in that episode.
Yeah, and it's not all about you, Rick. Sometimes a plot is just a plot that is crazy, and things happen. But thanks for being a friend.
I think it's interesting, though. We look at those first 5 episodes. Really, the premiere's the only one that is really canon heavy. Everything else doesn't really deal with canon that much. They're all kind of one-off sort of adventures.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. Yeah, there's nothing where Solarix was very heavy. Everything drops off after that, and just is
with the exception of maybe that they keep mentioning that portal travel still isn't working.
Well, I mean, as far as like major overarching plot points, it's not canon heavy, but in the smaller moments, it is, right? Like in Night Family, the whole idea that Summer has this deep-seated resentment towards Rick, and he has this deep-seated need for acceptance from the family and from her,
Yeah.
makes her more powerful in this subconscious, which is another thought for therapy. But like that is also canon.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. But that leads us into then the second half of the season, starting with the episode I keep talking about. That doesn't mean it's in my top
Brandon's
three.
favorite episode of the season.
If it's in the top three, make your bets now. Yeah, talking about dinosaurs and nature. There is a book, not by Asimov, that is
Michael
basically
Crichton?
it's not Michael Crichton either. Uh, anyway, I'll think of it as we're talking about it. But this idea of the like dinosaurs coming back to Earth, and they're like, no, like we're protecting your you and your nature from yourselves.
Yeah.
It was a kind of an interesting concept.
They dabble with the canon here by closing the rift, by bringing portal travel back, a little bit here. Like they close the door on portal travel being broken, but otherwise not very canon heavy. But we find out that dinosaurs can skateboard, and so it's all worthwhile. Full meta Jack Rick. This was actually our return from the season hiatus, and a very, very meta episode where I gotta be honest, going through this episode, it feels like it exists in two parts. There's the meta heavy part at the beginning, and then the resolution with the writer at the end and the story lord. It was really hard for me to like fully get into this episode when I first watched it. It's been easier on repeat viewings. But again, it's another episode that to me feels less about canon and more about the overall meta of the show and about the making of the show and about that relationship between the writers of the show and the audience and even the characters and how that all sort of those lines can blur and still produce an interesting episode. So
Yeah. It's I don't know offhand how many sequel episodes we've had.
yeah,
Like usually it's if there's a sequel episode, it's going from one finale to the premiere of the next season.
right.
I don't know how many, and I'm sure they're there. So feel free to correct me. I don't know how many episodes there are in the middle of a season that are like direct sequels to a previous season.
Yeah.
And so this Full Metal Jack Rick is going from like kind of not criticizing the audience as it was in Never Ricking Morty,
Yeah.
but kind of being like, hey, trust us, let us do our thing. We'll do right by you. Just take your hand off of the throttle and let us do their business. This one was more of like a, hey, we're writing stories here. We're not infallible. There's traits here, like tropes here that we're dealing with, and like motivation, story circle, all that type of stuff. More of a critique on the writers themselves versus Never Ricking Morty, which is more of like a this audience idea, this audience meta.
Yeah.
So
we move on from there to Analyze Piss, which we have talked about very recently because it was only a few weeks ago. But yeah, like a lot of growth in this one, and specifically with Rick, his willingness to be more accepting of therapy, actually interact with Dr. Wong, and utilize the tools that she has to become a better person. There was a concern for me as we got through this episode that, and I know we talked about it on the podcast, that is this going to be for naught? Is all of this betterment of Rick going to somehow be undone in some way? I don't know that we have like real resolution of that fact. I don't know if Rick is gonna show progress like he has at the end of Analyze Piss in season 7 and beyond. What do you think about that?
Well, I think Analyze Piss was a good episode to go back into the Dr. Wong well.
Yeah.
Where Pickle Rick was all about him doing whatever he could to avoid it. And then going into this episode, which is in some ways maybe it's less of a sequel episode than Full Metal Jacket, but like him going back to that character, and this time willingly, without Beth trying to drag him there, or without anybody trying to drag him there, he goes there willingly, like, what is the deal with this? And I don't know if we need to see that character again, Dr. Wong, but as long as like that, it's true in later seasons from here on out that like there is something there that he is working towards.
Yeah.
And whether this search for Rick Prime, or maybe we see Evil Morty again, maybe that is thematically tied to his journey also with dealing with that trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. So then from after that we go into a Rick and King Mortar's Mort, where we watched Analyze Piss and we knew just like on a deep level, maybe like a guttural bestial level, that there's something wrong with Rick in this episode, right? Like we just knew, everybody knew, because everyone ended this episode Mortar's Mort with being like, that doesn't feel right. There's something here, and sure, like, well, we'll talk about that when we talk about the next episode. But, like, it was a vat of acid in a different way. It was another quasi sequel, right?
A spiritual successor, right? Like, there's
yeah.
direct references to Vat of Acid, but it does show how Rick, or Robo Rick in this case, deals with a similar sort of, I don't know, separation from Morty in a different way, right? He doesn't build an elaborate trick to make Morty look like a fool and have him admit that Rick is right. He uses his science and his technology to help Morty out of a jam, and sort of protect him in the same way. So
yeah, and I think the argument is that, well, he did that because he's taking care of himself, and he wants to take care of the family in the meantime. It still feels kind of, in some ways, it still feels kind of selfish because he's lying to people. But
yeah,
it's still for good. It doesn't matter, whatever. But he's, I don't know, he's supportive of Morty, but it's Robo Rick. Whatever. Let's go into Ritual Morpoon's Rickman's Forcation. Whoo, that's a mouthful, especially if you are stuffy. Where we find out that it was a robot the entire time, and all our suspicions were confirmed, and the president's back. Lots of Star Wars references. It's perfectly vertical.
We talked about it last week. Just go back one in your podcast feed, guys. No, it's again, I feel like they're kind of connecting the premiere with the finale by bringing Rick Prime back into it, making that a central theme of at least the B plot. And I'm curious if that's going to lead right into a season 7 premiere where now they're on the hunt for Rick Prime, or do they start it a different way? I'm sure it'll be close to a year before we find out. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. If I had to rate the finale, like, it's probably not in my top 5 finales of this show, for as far as seasons go. But it's in my top 6 for sure.
Very specific. Yeah. Well, I mean, if comparing that, I mean, we should have done this last week, but yeah, looking back at all the season finales, it wasn't Yeah, it wasn't the strongest. Yeah, I mean, it was a surprisingly strong season. I'll say for season 6,
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
it was a strong season, and maybe that's why the finale maybe didn't wasn't as strong, um, because like 4 and 5 they had good episodes in there, but I wouldn't put those seasons above this season, um, and maybe because that dip made the highs higher, and
Possibly,
maybe
possibly.
the highs made these highs lower. I don't know. Only time will tell. Um, but yeah, that was the season 6, man. Season 6. Yeah, we'll see. To your point about what happens in the premiere of season 7, it would be strange if they aren't tied together somehow. And I
Yeah,
think they've done a good job with, because the distance in between the time in between season's ends and season's beginning, they almost have to have that link to like be like previously on, but instead of doing a previously on, they just do the okay, well, here's what's happening now. And like, oh, that's right. They were stuck on a ship. He's been drinking a lot. The Mortys took care of themselves. Okay.
yep.
Um, Travis, there is something that has happened in each episode since time immemorial. It is the post credits tag, and so there. I wanted to ask you. I put this in there as a special category.
Yeah.
The post credits tag of the season. Go. Here's what we have. We have Rick Prime kills Jerry, Cronenberg Jerry. We have the Die Hard 3 reference. Um, in the Bethic Twin Stink. I forget which one that one is. What is that? I put question marks. Originally, I clearly you don't remember it, so
Nope. Nope.
maybe Twitch Chat
It
can.
it was one that I like. It didn't stand out to me. So I didn't write it down.
The Night Family Choco Taco, Zebra Food,
Zebra food is in the runnings for me.
the skating dinosaurs. You got Tag Man, and then we're the last two. Mortar's Mort. That was
Mortar's more.
which one? Which one was
See, I
that?
can't rewatch that episode, so I don't know.
Dang it! Dang it! I forget. And then Rick Mismorcation, which is Poopy Butthole.
Yeah. So I, while I do like the poopy butthole revisiting him at the end of each season, to me that's like a staple now. That's almost to be expected. So I would not include that in my running for best post credit tag for the season. And the zebra food one I love because it looks like an interdimensional cable gimmick. Like it's a commercial for the zoo and they're feeding the zebras, but then all the people are eating the zebra food and they're all getting sick. But then it like zooms out and it's Morty at the gift shop of the zoo watching the like I don't know, like it goes on for a little while and it gets kind of weird
It's
and
like
it just cracks
you know,
me up every time.
it's an advertisement in the zoo. Like, why are the people eating the zebra food? Why do they want to take it home? Is it a zoo for zebras? It's zoo for people. That's the twist.
Why are they advertising the thing they don't want them to do?
Yeah, yeah. That's a really good one.
Oh
That's right.
yeah, Honey is watching, saying that Jerry revisiting the Jerry Beret to try and I
That's
don't know hook up with another Jerry.
right.
That's
Just to see what it's like. Just to see
yeah,
what it's like.
yeah, yeah. That one wasn't as funny to me.
Uh,
The skating dinosaurs in Jurassic Mort, that with another great Ryan Elder song. But Tagman in the meta episode just cracks me up. Just the design of that character where it looks just like I don't know, like a hot dog on like a giant like yoked dude.
you
Just
getting any of this?
so for me, I'm gonna say it's a toss up. Zebra food and Tagman. I'm gonna go zebra food. Zebra food is my number one for the season.
if I had to have a toss up, it would be between zebra food and the Choco Taco. Uh, and I say that it's gonna go to zebra food. But what I will say about the Choco Taco, that tag, the reason that tag is weird is because the credits go over like this John Carpenter kind of like horror credits, and
Yeah.
so the tag is just like the resolution of the episode, and so it's not really a tag necessarily. But the Choco Taco being gone, it's devastating. It's like KFC hot wings, sauceless hot wings that they don't make anymore. It's devastating to me that they don't have these things anymore. And so I just want to, you know, pour one out for my Choco Taco homies out there. We'll miss you, and I'm not gonna make my own. Whatever.
I don't
All
know.
right,
They're good. They're good. No
zebra food.
zebra food. Also
There used to be a
good.
guy like walking with his little cart in my neighborhood selling them Choco Tacos. What a badass! I miss that guy. I never know I don't know what his name is. I was told not to go near him. But you know, whatever. Choco Tacos.
Choco taco.
All right, so
All right,
those.
it's time. It's time for our top 3 before we get out of here. Top 3 episodes of this season, Brandon. You have nothing listed, which I can assume only means that you're keeping it a secret and not that you don't know what your top 3 is.
That is definitely the case there, Travis. You know me too well. My top 3. What do you want to start with? You want to start with the third of the top 3, or you want to start with the
Sure.
number 1?
Sure, let's do that.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Go ahead and start us off.
Well, I had a really hard time, and I think it's because most of my episodes in my top 3 were from the first half of the season. And I don't know if that's just time since they came out making my thoughts like my memory of them is maybe better than the actual experience of them. Um, but I had kind of a toss up for my number 3 because I really like Night Family, but Analyze Piss was a really good episode too. I think Night Family probably just edges out and probably is in my number 3 spot.
Okay, all right. As I was reviewing the episodes, I was going in the reverse order of what I was supposed to do. So now I just kind of got to come up with a quick number 3. Yeah, it's hard because these episodes are all for the most part pretty good. I will say maybe my number 3 is Full Meta Jack Rick.
Okay.
Because I like that episode. I like the difference, as I kind of mentioned earlier. I like the difference being a sequel to an earlier episode in some way, and talking and criticizing themselves more openly, right? And not just in a like a look at us, oh we're stupid kind of way, but like really digging into the behind the scenes process, that whole Joseph Campbell aspect of the story circle. You know, I really dug that aspect of it.
Okay. Fair enough. That's good.
So what? So you're number 2, Travis. That's next on our agenda.
Walkie Talkie Die Hard.
Oh,
Rick and Mort Well Lived. It's a really fun episode. I like it. I like the line of thinking, the like bizarre idea of Morty being split into, billions of people. Like that side of the plot is really interesting to think about. But then the whole Die Hard side of it, it's just a fun episode. I go back to it over and over again when I think about this season. So yeah, it's number 2 for me.
man, this is. I think generally we're along the same lines every season. We're like 1 or 2 off normally, but for this number 2, dead on, dead on. Yeah, Walkie Talkie Die Hard. Um, we watched Violent Night the other like a week and a half ago in theaters now with David Harbour as Santa Claus, and it is basically a Die Hard movie. And so I went with it with a family, and at some point in time, Santa gets a walkie-talkie, and he's talking to a little girl, and my son like
Is he
leans
doing
over
a
to me.
Die Hard?
He's like, "Walkie talkie, die hard, walkie die hard, motherfucker." And people in the theater are like, "Shut up, shut up." Fuck. Anyway, yeah, that is
Yeah.
it's a great movie, and I'm we watched that episode of Rick and Morty, and then we watched Die Hard with the kid, and I think that there's maybe it's because I'm getting older now. Some of these references are going to be more for people who have never seen these things anymore.
Yeah.
So, Die Hard being a big part of it. That was one of the critiques I think in the subreddit too. Is like, what's Die Hard? I've never seen Die Hard.
Yeah.
Or going into like, I used to think going into the subreddit and putting like title references. I thought that was like kind of like just like a cheesy thing. Like, oh, I'll put here, title reference. Analyze Piss. It's based off of Analyze This with Billy Crystal and Robert De Niro. But I'm realizing more and more that people just don't know that. People don't get
Yeah.
those references.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. Other than say, Rick and Mort Well Lived, solid number 2.
What's your number 1?
Oh, my number 1. I want to say Solarix just from a lore aspect. It would be like my runner up to number 1, but instead I put it not in the top 3 at all. It's I don't know why I went with that logic. Instead I'm going to go with Night Family because it is such a departure from what the show's kind of formula has been that it was unique. It was its standalone. It had its own tone. There was something really cool that I saw. I don't remember seeing this in any Rick and Morty episode, but there was this dolly shot when Night Summer has tricked the family, and in the dolly it's like that Jaws shot. So the famous Jaws shot where like Roy Scheider's on the beach and he's like, it's like zooming out while at the same time it's zooming in on him.
Yeah.
And it does that same exact shot on Rick in that reveal that A Night Summer has done that. So cool. I do have a little bit of the critiques as far as like some of like the Simpsons-esque gags with like the cardboard or the Dynamite and Leaf Factory, but overall, it's my number 1. What about you?
I'm gonna go with Solarix. Just really loved the episode, start to finish. I liked getting more lore and backstory about Rick's past, the reset on the big bad with Rick Prime, the revisit of the original timelines, and really how it sets up the rest of the series to focus in on this core family. I think it's a really well constructed and interesting episode. It's got some great jokes that still make me laugh when I rewatch it, on 4th and 5th viewings. So yeah, I have to go with that as my number 1, which feels a little cheesy because it's like, yeah, it was a premiere, like, but yeah, I don't know. It's the episode I keep going back to as my favorite.
Yeah. I see over in our Twitch chat, folks putting their favorite. So Nikki Chuck, Analyze Piss number 3, Solarix tie for number 3, Night Family number 2, and then Bethic Twinstinct. And then Honey is watching, saying they love Bethic Twinstinct as well. I said this as far as Bethic Twinstinct goes. I think it is a very good episode. I think it's well crafted. It's not my favorite episode, but it's mostly just like my own hang-ups that I'm like, it's not. There's something about it that like it doesn't appeal to me.
Sure.
But that doesn't make it a bad episode, I guess. And then same thing with like Analyze Piss. I think Analyze Piss is a very good episode. I think that the content of it is mature as well.
Yeah.
Even with all the piss stuff. But that episode is so hard to watch on rewatch. Just with Pissmaster getting the shit kicked out of him, it's very, very hard knowing his ultimate fate. If you go to subreddit, there's some people who are like, who gives a shit? Like, he deserves what he got. It deserves what he did to himself. But I choose the more empathetic route when I think of that character, and so it hurts me to actually watch him get the shit kicked out of him, knowing what happens. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, those were our favorite episodes of the season. Travis, you want to say something? You put your hand up.
Nope. I was just emoting.
Oh, you just emote.
Yeah.
On Zoom, it's got the hand gesture emote. We don't do it here, but you can. Zoom.com/emote. That was season 6. We talked a lot about season 6. We will talk a lot more about season 7 when that comes out. So we're heading into the off season. We're heading into the holidays. Travis, what do you want to leave us off with? What do you want to leave Unity out with?
Well, this would be the moment where we would do listener suggestions and short outs. I will just say a huge thank you to all of Unity, the community around this show, Rick and Morty, and even more specifically, this podcast. You guys are just awesome. It's been so much fun covering season 6 with you, getting your feedback, your emails, your comments, your messages, direct messages, the comments in the Twitch stream. We have a really cool community growing on Twitch, and we love seeing the chat, not just directed at us, but also at each other. So if you're not on Twitch yet, highly encourage you to check out any of the live streams. A lot of calls for it's mostly you just calling for Andor to be covered on stream, and we'll probably do that. After a couple of weeks of downtime, we'll regain our health maybe a little bit over the holidays, and then come back strong. Looking at a lot of different opportunities just in podcasting in general. Looking at ways that we can provide a better product for you as the fans, and just exploring what else is out there. So big things coming in 2023, and excited to continue to be making the show.
Heck yeah. Last little bit of editor's note, talked about in Jurassic Mort, the book that it was based off. It is Arthur C. Clarke, Childhood's End, where, let's see, what does this say? I don't know. It's a classic science fiction novel. Whatever. Go read that, and you'll probably see what Jurassic Mort is all about. I have it in my library. I found it the other day. I was like, oh shit, I have this book? Huh. I should read it. Instead of this awesome biography by Greg Graffin, the lead singer of Bad Religion. Okay. That is all I have. No, there's one last thing. Echo everything Travis said, and just to say, we are not going away. We'll be here for season 7. We'll be here for episodes in between season 7. Check out our podcast, Apathetic Enthusiasm. That's probably where we'll do most of our content, and maybe we'll cross feed some of that stuff. But until next year, until next episode, heart all of you. Thank you all for listening and being a part of the show, being a part of this fandom with us. And I think that is it, Travis.
Yeah, that's it. Bye. We love you. Bye.
Bye. We love you. Bye. That's how I say goodbye to my mom. I don't have sex with her, though.
I'm going to get you that fortune cookie.
Desmithation.